Dynamite download.
AEW 2020, John Silver.
Special event, as you can see, SPD.
For a splashing good time. January recruitment.
I come along, I come along in the ring.
I mean, I would not want to. I would not want to.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome, everybody. We are in episode 21, and man, we are fresh off the heels of another jam-packed episode of Dynamite. There's so much that happens on this show, SPD. It's hard to keep up with this stuff once in a while, man. This show is absolutely loaded. From top to bottom, we got a lot to talk about, and I think AEW set the tone right out the gates. They brought us a TNT Championship match. We got to see Darby Allin take on Joey Janela, and the Bad Boy certainly proved a lot of people wrong, myself included. Man, he killed it tonight. That match was absolutely worth the price of watching this show from the get, man. It was phenomenal. And you threw it up there right now, man. Look at that card, man. It's absolutely stacked. What match? Well, we'll get into it tonight when we get into it about what match jumped out to you. I can't wait to hear, which one is your star performer of the night. But let's go through the results real quick, SPD.
Yeah, and like you said, Darby Allin, kicked things off. We were kind of texting back and forth, like who's going to start the show in terms of what match, because that's always a good placement of starting the show and, living up to like keeping the momentum going. And Darby Allin versus Joey Janela taking the win as expected. Really was a good way to start the show, and I was impressed all around. We saw a different side of Darby for sure, and so he successfully retained for the second time of his TNT title reign. Yeah,
you had to love this match, and I can't wait to talk to you more about it because it's such a different showcase for Darby. That said, the next match, talking about showcases, man, we got to see some talent that's not normally showcased on AEW Dynamite. And somebody who we finally broke through and got their first win. We got to see Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson pull off a victory against Pretty Peter Avalon with that continued feud with Cody and his tag team partner Cesar Bononi. Dude, easy to say, but my goodness, that dude is an absolute powerhouse.
Jeez, is he ever?
A beast. AEW is just getting their roster stacked. New talent left and right, man.
Absolutely. And it was another entertaining match for sure. And of course, I get the pleasure of saying how Pac defeats Ryan Nemeth and pretty much a controlling dominant force. And it's definitely what was needed out of him for sure.
Yeah, great showcase in that match. And the next match was one that I told you about last week. As soon as we heard about it all week long, we were following it on social media. Chris Jericho and MJF, they went over the Acclaimed. But my goodness, that one left us wanting more. There's no doubt about it. Between the hype throughout the week and then the finish of that match, I want to see that rematch.
Absolutely, and I'm for it, and I'll get into it in more depth. But I'm coming around to the Acclaim train. I'm jumping on the bandwagon after this.
Everybody loves the Acclaimed.
They have arrived for sure. And then we saw the first match of the women's tournament. One of our favorites, Thunder Rosa, defeat legit Layla Hirsch in advancing to the next round of the 16-woman tournament for the number one contender.
Man, that tournament is just absolutely stacked from top to bottom. And that match was a great way to start it out. I can't wait to talk to you about that one. You know that the Dynamite Download team is going to deliver the fire like thunder. Anytime we get a chance to talk about Thunder Rosa, it's a blast here. And then, honestly, this main event, SPD, this main event has so much star power in it, and there's so much to enjoy in that one. The ring could not contain the star power in that match. It spilled all the way back into the cafeteria.
The potatoes weren't even safe.
Absolutely incredible match between Kenny Omega and Kenta going against John Moxley, his former champion, and the Murder Hawk. And unfortunately, I mean, we saw that one also. There was some foul play involved in that match. Unfortunately, left us with a little taste in our mouth. We want to see more. AEW always does that. They always leave us wanting more. Let's dive right into it, man. Let's get into this. Let's talk about that first match. Darby Allin going against Joey Janela. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it was when it first got announced. I mean, we'll be the first to admit, we were kind of surprised a little bit, but as you get into the more depth of the story behind it, you're like, okay, this makes sense. And the AEW team does a great job at really explaining feuds, explaining why things happen. I felt like early on when AEW kind of started off, they didn't necessarily, you kind of were just like, why is this match happening? And as they've grown as a company, you get more of the vignettes, you get the road twos, you get the announcing team really diving deep into the rhyme or reason, the history between them all. So I really appreciated that part of it. I liked how we got to see this other side of Darby. It wasn't the necessarily like the recklessness and all that. So you got a lot of the mat wrestling of him, and it was a fun change of pace. He still delivered his signature moves, his signature jumping, through the ropes, and his double stomps. So Darby looked strong. It was matched well with a little bit bigger Joey Janela. And, watching Janela last night on Dark, he really impressed. I mean, he's someone that you love him or you hate him. But I thought his main event at Dark was very impressive with Jack Evans. And I think he was really, he's a hard worker, and you can tell he lays it out on the line. He's pretty fearless. And, he took a big bump last night off the top onto the side. He almost landed on the guardrail, and he took a few big bumps tonight too. And he had some great counters to Darby. I really liked when Darby tried to do the springboard coffin drop, and Janela caught him and gave him a suplex, then a super kick. And so I was very impressed by that. And so what was kind of surprising to me, which, I mean, it made sense in the end, but the whole time, last week Team Taz was saying how that they were going to show up and that they're going to be ringside, or they're going to, kind of maybe interfere with the match, but they didn't. And the announcing team kept talking about it, but they didn't. But then we saw it later on what happened with that. But overall, this was a good way to start the match. It wasn't main event worthy, even though it was a title defense. It was a good opening match. And I would give it an elite. I'm going to give it an elite just for the fact that I thought we saw Darby grow, and it was entertaining. So to me, it's an elite.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm going to surprise you because that I've struggled with Joey Janela. Is one of the few talents, on the roster that I had a slow time coming around to, for sure. But this match gets an elite out of me too, and I want to say, leading up to this match, I challenged myself to go back and pay attention to Joey's journey to AEW, not necessarily just his role here in the company, but all he's gone through and all he's put himself through to get to this point. And it's a reminder to all of us, I think, in life, that we all start somewhere. And that was, I gotta say, I gotta give Joey props, man. This dude has scratched and clawed to get on TV, and he's living a good life, brother. And I gotta give him this. Joey throws we saw it with Jack Evans. I've seen it on Dark several times. His offense is impressive sometimes, with the way he's willing to put all things, care to the wind, man. That dude just was willing to throw it all out there. And as fans, you got to appreciate that, a guy who who sees an opportunity and goes after it. You have to respect that. So
Right.
I got to give Joey his props on that. And one of the things that I loved about this match, and I know you had to as a fan, I'll just emphasize it even further, is just, this is such a rare opportunity for us as fans to see Darby to this point in his AEW career go against somebody who is a similar size. Yes, Joey definitely played a little bit more of the power in this match,
Right.
but we're so used to Darby getting tossed around. I mean, think about the countless matches that he's had with Brian Cage, and honestly, what happened later in the night was a reminder of what happens when Darby crosses Brian Cage. But we've seen Darby go against Will Hobbs and Brian Cage, and we've seen what happens, right? Darby's always sort of on the defensive. He's always getting tossed around. He's always getting beat up. And a lot of his wins come almost feeling like a fluke, right? Some of his wins come off feeling like he lucked into it. Darby didn't luck into this win. We got to see some of his offense. We got to see more of what he's capable of, a little bit more of a technical side of Darby Allin. I even really, really loved how Darby kind of twisted Joey's arm and placed it underneath his body prior to hitting that coffin drop, only to further emphasize all the arm work that Darby did throughout the match. You saw some of those arm wrenches over the top rope. Just some of it further cemented that Darby is not just this like crash test dummy, but that he's actually an intelligent, purposeful wrestler who has some technical background behind him. And something that we needed to see to further solidify him as a champion. But so for me, I'm going to give it an elite. I was actually very impressed by this match. I thought this is the match I would have picked to start off the show. It did not disappoint. Great energy throughout the match. And I think both competitors showed well. It was really nice to see the champion presented in this light. And so we got to give credit to both competitors for that. That said, speaking of champions, let's talk about the former AEW World Champion and current IWGP United States Champion, Jon Moxley. It was really pretty incredible to see that belt over his shoulder on AEW television, which, this only furthers the whole, the door being open, the forbidden door being opened. But man, I'll just say, looking at that visual, Jon Moxley it just feels right seeing a championship belt over his shoulder.
It really does.
You talked about it when you were there live, SPD. Watching Moxley's entrance without him carrying a title belt just felt weird, right? He certainly is one of the best in the world, and his promo tonight only further emphasized why. That dude can cut a promo and get you hyped no matter what the circumstances are, right?
Of course. And I love that they're doing this since his, essential return, the month off after his defeat. Even if it is a 2-minute promo, it's so powerful. And that's what we're seeing out of like Team Taz as well. Like, even if they're featured 2 minutes, it goes a long way and you're still buzzing about it. But, it was great hype to build throughout the card, and also to really further the relationship with the New Japan Pro Wrestling, because when they did finally show the belt, he's facing Kenta in 16 days. And so it's really to keep the wrestling world on their toes this whole time. And how he's just saying tonight is just for fun. And it was definitely just for fun.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a powerful promo. Absolutely. I enjoyed it. And he always is. I mean, we can, beat a dead horse, and he's always great on the mic.
Yeah. Mox always delivers, and he was pulling no punches, but I'll tell you who literally did not pull any punches was Sammy, and I gotta say, like that I can't wait to talk more about that. That came shortly after the Mox promo, and we'll touch on that later on in the show tonight, guys. But I know that there's a lot of buzz around what's going on in AEW. I'll be honest with you, there wasn't a ton, though, about this tag match that we got to see next. Was Cody and Lee Johnson going against Pretty Peter Avalon and Cesar. There wasn't a lot of buzz around this one. We follow everything on social, and people weren't really chatting about it. But I think now, after this match, this is another example how Cody is utilizing his platform to build stars in his company. And you follow what's going on after this match. All that anybody could talk about was Lee Johnson. And that to me speaks volumes. This is a guy who struggled all of 2000, like throughout his entire AEW career, honestly.
Right.
And to this point, for him to finally get a big win like this, it was just a great feel-good moment. And it was one of the defining moments of the entire show.
It really was. It's a great feel-good moment. And, what I love, I mean, that just speaks volumes for AEW and the Rhodes family. They're constantly building up talent, and they're so selfless and supportive of other talent. Getting in the ring with so new guys, like we've talked before how we couldn't imagine AEW without the likes of Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston, and even Matt Sydal, and all these ones that Cody
during his open challenge.
Open challenge. And so Lee Johnson is another one of those stories. And I mean, he is all elite now. Tony Khan posted out that he officially is signed. So congratulations to him. I mean, he's got the work ethic, man. He looked sharp in the ring. He had that corkscrew over the top rope, the fisherman's neck breaker. Like, he's got some move sets that are very entertaining. And what I really loved about this was, if you watch the Road 2, you got a chance to pull back the curtain with Lee Johnson and really hear about his struggle and his story. And then what even tied it even more together was the emotional promo on the top of the entrance, with the Rhodes family, the Nightmare Academy behind him, saying they're supporting. If I'm an up and coming wrestler and I see that behind me, I know I'm in good hands. And so the match itself, to me, is an elite. I'm going to give it an elite but because of the great story of the Lee Johnson. We got to see Cesar, and if you paid close attention to the picture-in-picture, there's a lot of his really heavy-hitting moments. I saw him do a couple big chops on Cody in the picture-in-picture, so I really wish we could have seen some of his bigger moments live versus in the picture-in-picture. So I think they got someone there. Teaming with Pretty P. Avalon, I'm not sure if that works just yet. There's always a greater reason. I got my Cody Rhodes shirt right there too, so I had to wear that. And his new shirt also is very nice, for Black History Month. I really like that shirt as well. As I digress, and one last thing about it, I loved how JR said you have to maximize your minutes, and Lee Johnson did that tonight, and
no doubt
he surprised us all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like going away from this match, obviously you and I have talked about this time and again, Cody's such a great platform for other workers. One of the things that I was most impressed by was Cesar Bonini's size and strength. And yes, I agree with you. I would have loved to see maybe him a little bit more during this match. I feel like casual viewers out there are going to see a guy like him. And I mean, he dwarfed over Cody, and Cody's not a small guy, man. Cody's been hitting
13 pounds of muscle in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Cody's always hitting the gym, always packing on that muscle, bro. So I think they did something with that. And honestly, when I was watching this match, I was like, man, I would love to see him go against Big Nick, who's another recent Nightmare Family signee. So would love to see that. Maybe this is leading to, Cody and the Nightmare Family having more of a presence on Dynamite. Maybe Cody is going to be allowing some of these other wrestlers on the Nightmare Family to get a little bit more time and get a little bit more rub as associated with him. This to me was a breakout moment for Lee Johnson, though. I mean, this is something that we as fans, we talk about here at Dynamite Download a lot, chasing dreams and AEW really being a company that pushes that motto, where Cody himself, do the work. That's his motto, is just do the work. And this is an example, right? Hard work pays off. You got to tip your hat to somebody who doesn't give up, doesn't quit when they're putting in the work and they don't see the results that you would hope for right away. Week, 3 weeks, 3 months down the road, you're still grinding, you're still fighting, you're still scratching, and it's not quite clicking for you.
Right.
You got to tip your hat to somebody who doesn't just walk away and doesn't quit. And that's what success is all about. Continuing the grind day in, day out. And we talk about that with some of the interviews. I mean, we just had a great interview where really the recruitment specialist talked to us a lot about how this is their journey. About
do you
what
want to announce it? Break the news right there.
No. It's all right. We've talked about it. It'll come out tomorrow night. But this is really this is something that it defines a wrestler's journey. There's a lot of no's. There's a lot of no's that you see, a lot of defeats before you break through. Right. Well, we might as well put it out there. Alex Reynolds, we talked to him yesterday, and not to get sidetracked off of this, but he talked a lot about what it means to put in the work and to feel like you're almost your dreams are gonna slip through your fingers, and not growing complacent, not giving up, continuing to fight for those dreams. Lee Johnson's a great example of that put into action, and tonight was an awesome story for that. So really, really impressed by that. Excited to see where he goes moving forward. I think he has a bright future ahead. This was a good tag match that showcased, a lot of opportunities for people who haven't had them. But to me, there's no bigger moment than seeing Santana and Ortiz, who I know I'm not alone. I've been clamoring for these guys to be given a better opportunity to get that rub, to get a shot at the tag titles. There's no excuses that Santana and Ortiz, proud and powerful, should not be near the top of the AEW tag team division. I know this roster is absolutely stacked with tag teams, but there are very few in the world who can put on a show quite like Santana Ortiz. Those guys are so polished, so cohesive. They have so much work together, the years and years of tag team wrestling together. Absolutely love those guys. And I think, honestly, they're hitting their peak right now. So it's incredible to find out that they're going to finally get a chance to go against the Young Bucks for the tag team championships. And I'm going to be there live to see it. So I'm geeked.
We are going to be there live, baby. Team Dynamite download. And I've been antsy all day, texting you all day, being like, is it 9:30 yet? Is it 9:30 yet when we're going to find out what's the card's going to be? And, we'll review the card later, but we know in typical AEW fashion, we'll see another like two matches, hopefully in another segment. But, you have a card with the Young Bucks and Santana Ortiz in it. Just that alone is worth the price of admission.
That's a match that I know people are clamoring for. That could be a pay-per-view match. That could easily be a match where you could see, man, finally Santana Ortiz are breaking through and getting a shot. And anytime they're in the ring together, they're a credible threat. They don't need weeks and months of build to be a threat to the tag titles. Those guys are legit. Their careers are the build. There's no need to waste that time. I love this. I'm really intrigued to see what happens, especially given how the Good Brothers have been so willing to get involved and cause problems. I think that's going to be something to keep your eyes on next week. Is how do the Good Brothers play a role in this whole scenario? You're going to see Private Party. You're going to see Private Party involved in next week's show, and the Young Bucks. The Good Brothers are going to be there. So I'm intrigued. I thought the Young Bucks breaking that news early on in the show got us geeked, got us real hyped for next week's show. They set the tone. But their promo, although they broke a big match, it might not be the biggest segment or promo of the night. And there's certainly the Hangman promo, that his segment with Matt Hardy. There's a lot to unpack from that segment. SPD, I know that you're fascinated by Big Money Matt, and as the ultimate carny, he pulled a fast one on me. He had me tricked that he had got Hangman to sign a contract, and honestly, big picture, it looks like Hangman might have outsmarted Big Money Matt.
What happened? I'm still, because of how fast paced this show is, what exactly happened, with the contract?
Okay, so let's break it down.
Yeah, please do, because I'm just trying to keep up with this show and prepping for Dynamite Download as well. Yeah. And I was just, the first part of the promo, I loved it. It's a cowboy torn between two two friends essentially, or two lights. It's like a fork in the road. Where do you go? You got the dark, Big Money Mad, who it all sounds like sunshine and rainbows, and then you come across your good old buddies, the Dark Order, who have always been, loving of you and supportive of you. Like, where do you go with that? And so, John Silver, again, he was on the screen for like 20 seconds, but he still was impactful, which I absolutely love. And he's hilarious as always. And, when we talk to him, it's just such an honor to talk to him. And we are very high on him. And then the other the second part of it was with him in the bar. And I loved I love Big Money Matt. And I think this is some of his best work. I'll say it till the chickens come home, so
that's a new saying.
I think he is onto something. And the stuff he does with Private Party and the stuff he's been doing on Impact and everything, it's just absolutely genius.
So leave this image up, because this is the turning point of the whole promo, and this is
two pieces of paper, but I didn't catch anything.
This is what got me. So I was watching this and I was like, man, Matt got Hangman drunk, and he got him to sign another deal where, man, he's going to be, I thought it was going to be the continuation maybe of seeing Hangman not only drunk, but then becoming broke and losing his losing his fortune, and then the Dark Order would be the ones that surround him with love. But this moment, I was so focused on Matt Hardy that I didn't see Hangman in the
shots
background.
away.
Yeah, Hangman in the back swapped out contracts. He signed it. Now we as fans don't know what Hangman has and what the deal is. And as Matt Hardy said, the cameraman needed to be here to document it. Once it's signed, it's signed. So I'm fascinated to see where this goes. Is this going to lead to maybe Hangman become, I don't know, Hangman and Dark Order getting a chance against Matt Hardy and the Private Party? Who knows? I'm really excited to see where this goes. And honestly, this is a great example of AEW just continuing to pack in segments, continuing to pack in shows with so much content, so much layering to their storylines. It's incredible content, man. And so, we're fascinated to see where the Hangman story goes. I think that Hangman is undeniably one of the top stars in this company, and having this, him getting pulled in a bunch of different directions, all this courtship, but persevering and showing that he's really in charge, and that he's on top of things. That was a nice character moment, and certainly something that I think is going to only further Hangman's stardom moving forward. I'm really interested, but from there, I'll be honest. There are a few stars in AEW that get me quite like Pac, and it was so awesome to hear the commentator team just absolutely go all in and praise this guy. I think that this match, going into it, the way that Ryan Nemeth has been presented on Dark and on Dynamite before, there was some questions on, is this a showcase for Ryan to continue to build the Hollywood hunk, to continue to build, him as a new emerging star? And quite definitively, within the first 30 seconds or so, it became real evident that Ryan's place in this match was, and again, this is a huge compliment to him, he has it in his bloodlines, that he's an incredible seller. This dude can make anybody look great. And I thought this match made Pac look like $1 million, dude. He absolutely, some of the offense that was going on in this match was just hard hitting, the kicks, the speed. You have a guy like Ryan who's a great athlete who could keep up with Pac. This one was nonstop action. Huge fan of this match.
Absolutely, and it was definitely needed. It was a dominant performance, and very welcomed, hands down, for him. Just to, not necessarily, you could call it a squash in a way, but in a way, like the commentator says, to
great
continue
picture.
His legacy of brutality. And it's no secret that so many people, Kenny Omega talked about it, Alex Reynolds on our interview yesterday talked about it. They are saying, both of those people saying Pac is the best wrestler in the world. And pound for pound, there's no one better than him. And you see what he can do in the air. You can see what he can do on the ground. You can see what he do on his feet. It's just the announcers put him over tenfolds. And like you said, it was amazing just to hear that. And he deserves a push. And he's a vital part of AEW. And I really hope that we see him next week in some form. And just really continue the momentum. And
Me too.
This definitely for me is an elite because having Pac just essentially just destroy someone who we've seen a couple times already.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just some enhancement, even though Ryan is not officially announced. But this is the Pac that we want to see, and continue to see.
Yeah, I mean, Pac has been so ingrained in this greater feud. With Eddie Kingston and Phoenix and Butcher and the Blade and Lance Archer, that, it's easy to forget what a unique singles star he is. And that's, and I love tag team wrestling, that.
Right.
But there's something special that happens when this dude is featured. When he has a platform where he can show what he's capable of, because man, his offense, the pacing of his matches is unlike anything that I've seen as a lifelong wrestling fan. Right. I've been preaching to you for a long time that this guy is my favorite wrestler in the world. I think that he is every bit as good as a Kenny Omega. I think that he's talent wise, can sometimes get overlooked, but his blend of power, I mean, you look at like his striking ability, how sick some of those kicks are that he has.
Echoing and just thudding. Yeah.
I mean, you combine that with his like that seething anger. I mean, right from the moment he comes out of the tunnel, you see that this dude just wants to rip somebody apart. He has that anger inside of him, and then you can do that with a dude who can do the Black Arrow, which is, I mean, his acrobatics and his high flying ability combined with his power it's a rare thing. It's a very rare thing. We talk about our love for his partner Phoenix and what an incredible acrobat that dude is, and some of the stuff that he can do is literally jaw dropping. But to be able to do that with an extra probably 30, 40 pounds of muscle on your frame is just, to me, I've run out of superlatives to talk about Pac. He's just that special. And that's why it was so cool to me as a fan. I'm honestly, sometimes you question as a fan, man, am I biased? Am I just a mark? And you start to wonder like if you're onto something or not, right? Because I realize there's a lot of people who have their favorites,
right.
But when you hear JR and you hear Excalibur and you hear Shivani throughout this match, just continue to praise him, continue to highlight what a star he is. And then like you talked about, his peers. I mean, our interview with Reynolds is something that I'm still beaming about when Reynolds talked about. No doubt about it.
7 p.m. Thursday.
That interview is to this point. That one has left the biggest impact on me during our time here in Dynamite Download. I know you geeked out hard about Johnny Silver, and Thunder Rosa was our first interview, and it was really special. And we believe in Thunder. But Alex Reynolds is sort of that underdog story and incredible mind for the business. And as I've gone back and I'm a big fan of his at this point. And all the more reason why I'm a big fan of his is because he said that Pac's the best in the world. So I loved it. This match was a great showcase for him. No doubt about it. It was an elite for me. Again, I want to emphasize Ryan Nemeth, no doubt. He knows how to play a crowd. I have to say, his facial expressions, his ability to sell, they've got something with him. Now, I don't know where he'll end up shaking out in the grand scheme of AEW, but I certainly think, we saw a Peter Avalon earlier on in tonight's show. There's no reason that a Ryan Nemeth can't be a regular out of Dark, can't be a regular in as far as like that heel, that gets under your skin, that you want to see get punched in the face. I think they got something with him, and this was a great showcase for both athletes. I think that anytime you're in the ring with Pac, you know you're going to get tested, and I thought he came out looking really good.
And you know you're going to get beat up.
No doubt.
Because he rarely loses.
Oh.
And, I mean, talk about it. The next segment, the next star in the making, which we've said for weeks to come, Sammy Guevara, man. I was going back and forth, man. I almost picked him as my top performer of the night, even though he'd even stepped foot in the ring in terms of an action.
That was the only thing that stopped me, because I hear you. It was a big night for him.
Sammy Guevara elevated his character tenfold tonight. He stood up to MJF, punched MJF, walked out on the inner circle, and that is breaking news. That is a huge story. And then he walked out of the babyface tunnel.
You're always paying attention to that tunnel.
Those
always
little
are.
things. I mean, that's what AEW does. You know,
You're right.
They're doing those tunnel, the babyface tunnel and the heel tunnel, and so it's kind of cues, because Young Bucks kind of kept going back and forth, and they talked about it on BTE. You know, they were kind of like, "Oh, are we going out of the babyface tunnel or the heel tunnel?" You know, so whatever.
You're right, though.
You know, I loved that segment. You know, catching MJF being the typical sleazer he is, trying to record Sammy and then giving him the low, you know, the punch to the ribs, or it almost looked like a low blow. It was outstanding. And then, you know, we lead into the match. And so, what do you think of the pre-promo before we talk about the match?
I loved it. I'm gonna say a couple things, and we've emphasized this before. If you can hold your own against MJF in a promo battle, you're onto something, right? Like, you know, I just got done talking about what an incredible high flyer Pac is, and you know, we know what Sammy can do in the ring. This kid, he's incredibly exciting, and I think that a lot of people are going to be big fans of his for a long, long time. I think that Sammy's got a bright future ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
But to be showcased as an intellectual equal of the master manipulator that is MJF, it's really refreshing. It's refreshing to show, like, so often as wrestling fans, a lot of these times the baby faces are a lot of times these characters are dumb, and they're just, you know, like the storytelling of you know, you could poke holes in the logic of this stuff. True. They did a nice job, even with little, like you just talked about the tunnel. But I even loved with Sammy saying, you know, "No, cameraman, you stay here." You know, like little, like, oh well, you know, oftentimes with these backstage segments, you're left wondering, like the camera, did they not know that a camera guy is here?
Like it's like a hidden camera or something.
Like a hidden camera? No, AEW does not insult the intelligence of their fans, and I really enjoy that. I think that they're hitting the demo really, really well, because they reward you for paying attention. They reward you for they reward you for paying attention. They reward you for following the breadcrumbs. They are always doing little nuances, little things that you got to go back and watch. You have to go back and see. And I thought this was a great example. Even something as simple as the Inner Circle's reaction to MJF kind of asking them all to leave. If you go back to the past segments, you know, MJF having private time with Santana Ortiz and Wardlow and Hager, you know, when Sammy left last time and Jericho chased him out of the ring, you know, it's playing into the whole scenario. Is MJF, does he have the Inner Circle behind him now? And it is Sammy on the outside looking in. This is going to be an interesting way that they go forward with this story. I'm really intrigued by it.
I think it's going to lead to some amazing stuff, and we are very high on Sammy Guevara. Some great things, and you know, turning babyface is and kind of going against the toughest and the most popular faction in wrestling right now. It's going to be great, and it's just going to elevate his star power even more. And you know, we talked about this match a lot this week. I think we talked about this match more than anything this week, and I'll be the first to admit that I haven't been on the Acclaim train this whole time they've been a team. But this week's social media battle, their skits, I know, you're right. bro. You are right. This week's social media battle and this week's back and forth with two of the best. I mean, MJF and Chris Jericho are the best on the mic, period.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one that can really top them. But then you add the Acclaimed and the mockery that they've done to MJF and really like make fun of his past and things like that. And they made it personal, you know.
They did.
It was outstanding. And I think the Acclaimed won a lot of fans over. And I mean, it is, but it isn't that hard to get more people on your side when you're facing two of the top bad guys in the biz with MJF and Chris Jericho right now. So the Acclaimed have shifted me to be a fan this week dramatically based on the social stuff. This is a prime example of what's so great about this day and age of wrestling. You know, you get a lot of negativity and a lot of critics and a lot of, you know, things you can't miss, which is really a horrible part of it. But on the flip side, on the cold side of the pillow, you have the battles that you can continue these feuds and get really excited for and antsy for this match. Because if you didn't get this, if you didn't follow the social media all week, yes, it's going to be a great match. And then they do advertise some of the stuff on the road too and like that. But you're getting hourly and daily, you know, things back and forth. And it was outstanding, man. I mean, the build for this was great. The Acclaimed looked strong on this. You know, Jericho's jacket looked amazing as well. As always, he is the jacket god. He's the demo god. He's the ratings ruler. He's the less sex god. I mean, he's it all. Jericho has it all. And my wife said, she was saying, Jericho looks great. He looks in shape. She's like, how old is he? And I was like, he's been getting fat shamed. And I'm like, that is how horrible social media is. And he looks better than
looks shredded tonight.
He's a 1%er in terms of the way his shape for his age. I think he's in less than 1% of the people that can be in that good of shape in his age. So props to Chris Jericho, man. This was Acclaim's entrance was outstanding. The rap was outstanding. Typically, I haven't been a fan of their rap entrance.
They're live. Let's be real. Like they're live, and this is fair for anybody, right? Their live raps have paled a little bit in comparison to these pre-recorded segments that we've gotten a chance to see, and that I think that's normal. I don't think that I'm not going to criticize them because we're on a much smaller scale, and we can even acknowledge it's so much harder when you're live. There's that extra pressure. You feel those butterflies, but I think that these guys feel so comfortable with MJF and Jericho. And a lot of it is because of that history that they have, that both Maxes have with each other. You know, I told you, like, I'm not going to preach to you like I was like on the Acclaimed bandwagon from day one either, but I've paid attention to their growth. A lot of it has been through social media and dark. When you watch these guys, again, they burst onto the scene with not a lot of backstory, and so it was easy. It was easy to wonder where they were coming from, but as you've allowed these characters to breathe, and you get to see how their creativity, their sense of humor, just how on point they are with those verbal jabs. I mean, I got to give these guys a lot of credit. I think that the Acclaimed are quickly growing on a lot of people. And this was a great way to book this match because, you know, they were protected. The ending of this match clearly almost like, I mean, you mentioned it. They got over almost like baby faces in this match. We're typically seeing the Acclaimed as kind of those heels that talk a lot of trash. But anytime that you're against MJF, you're immediately thrust into a babyface role. We've talked about that countless times here at Dynamite Download. He's such a good heel. He's so despicable. They got over in a big way in this match. And I think that, you know, losing thanks to Hager getting involved and thanks to, you know, some unfortunate events with Bowens kind of going over for that big move at the end, out to the floor. It left a lot of people wanting to see these guys get another shot down the road. I think that the Acclaim lose very little, if they really lost nothing in this match. If anything, they gained that huge rub, right? Like through social media, through having an impressive match against a legend like Jericho. I think that this was a great overall showing. And I want to say, man, like, you know, anytime you throw two singles wrestlers together, in a tag team, you do wonder how they're gonna do, right? I mean, as the tag team guy here, I was a little bummed when I saw Santana and Ortiz lose that battle of the inner circle to determine who would be the ultimate tag team of the group. But Jericho and MJF are flawless together. The work that they do to
They're pulling
manipulate
each other's hand.
Yes, I loved that work, and Jericho and MJF both stepping on the chest, you know.
Oh, that was great.
Walking on it, walking over top them. You know, this is an example of, to me, just what we've talked about. Jericho is that godfather. He's clearly taken. I mean, MJF is such a perfect mini-me version of Jericho. We see the future is so bright for MJF, and there's a lot of that charisma and trash talk and just natural heel tendencies that oozes from his very being. There's no better pairing than being paired up with Jericho. I thought this match was phenomenal. Big fan of this match. I thought the psychology, the way it played out, benefited both teams. No doubt about it. This is an elite for me. And I think that the post-match stuff, like, I mean, from top to bottom, SPD, it's wild to talk about, but the pre-match, like with like all the stuff that built up to it throughout the week on social, the promos, like where Sammy punched MJF in the ribs and caused like a whole new element of this match to be played out, the match itself, and then the post-match. I mean, from top to bottom, this was a phenomenal segment. I really was a big fan of this. It was probably my favorite segment of the night.
I think this one has got the main event was outstanding, but this one has the most in terms of in-depth storytelling that we've seen in a while, you know, with multiple segments. And then, you know, JR said a great comment that he goes, you know, one day we'll wake up and see everyone in the inner circle as a champion, you know, everyone. And he was just, you know, emphasizing how stacked this team is.
We've said it a long time.
Yeah. And I completely agree. You know, the post-match stuff with Sammy, it finally played out. I didn't expect it to happen this soon.
Yeah.
But I'm happy for it. You know, it's just keeping the pedal on the metal with the inner circle. You know, they have a lot going on, and I think they're keeping it fresh. You know, we do like a slow build, but this is going to be a pretty fast explosion. I mean, you have Sammy. Who knows? You know, he said he needs some time. Does that mean he's going to take a few weeks off, or what is he going to do? Or are we going to see him faster than we expect, you know? And then is he going to cost them the title shot at Revolution, you know, something like that? Maybe we don't see him till that. Who knows? But, you know, he said, you know, I told him on December 9th, one more time, I'm done. And then he's done. And he officially finally stood up to Jericho, the inner circle, and walked out the babyface tunnel. And the rest is history. He's riding off to the sunset. It's going to be some exciting stuff.
I think that they got to, you know, from a timing perspective, I think that they do have to pull the trigger, right? I think that, like you said, like this whole thing with MJF and Sammy has been building the dissension in the inner circle. I mean, you think about it, man, like even dating back to like the Vegas trip. I mean, there's Sammy's always kind of had his reservations about MJF. So I think that especially now that MJF and Jericho, like you just talked about it, now that they have this huge opportunity ahead of them, there would be no bigger way for Sammy to get his comeuppance against these two than to take a little bit of a break and show up in March. That's all. I think that this is going to be really fascinating, and I think this is just the beginning of so much amazing content that's going to happen between Sammy and the rest of the crew in the inner circle. I wonder, to me, even more than like the potential outcomes of Sammy versus MJF, which we know is coming, I am so intrigued on where the rest of the players of this group, where they fall. And do they continue to stay loyal to the crew of the inner circle? And do they get involved with sort of that beatdowns of Sammy and fighting him? Or are they conflicted because Sammy's one of the originals? This is going to be a really fascinating like drama. I mean, this TNT is the home for drama. That's right. The inner circle has it all, baby. I I'm a big proponent for what is going on with this crew, man.
Yeah, and it's exciting, but also kind of creatively frustrating in a way when you have someone like Wardlow, which we're so high on, and Sammy. I mean everyone, but specifically Wardlow.
Yeah.
Who had an awesome match with Hager January 6th, and we're going into next week, February 17th, and we haven't even seen him on Dark yet, even or anything like that. So, is he hurt? What's the booking with that? I get I wouldn't call Wardlow green. He has some experience on the indies, but like we want to see that, and I don't know. I mean, we saw
it's
Cage
interesting.
on
I think that we could,
Dynamite,
I think that's something that we could talk a lot about SPD, but we'll move to, I mean, personally, I think that there's Wardlow is one of those talents, and we've talked about it before. Wardlow, like Miro, there's a lot of guys on this roster that, if AEW was strictly going for ratings, you just throw these dudes out there every week and just have them go at each other, bro. I mean, AEW is invested in the long term, and I think that with Wardlow, they're letting him continue to get seasoned. They're letting people like you and I chomp at the bit to want to see the big fella. And when it happens, and when he finally gets that push on his own, it's going to be special. So I think that they're playing the long-term story on this one.
Makes sense.
But I'll say the biggest long-term story, honestly, that I can remember in AEW is this Sting, the Darby Allin versus Team Taz saga. I mean, this dates back to when Brian Cage debuted in AEW. He has a long-standing beef with Darby Allin. And boy, oh boy, we've seen that visual of Darby being stuffed into a body bag before, but never quite like this. I mean, to see him get dragged across a parking lot in a body bag.
Oh my gosh, that was brutal. I mean, they brought the body bag back out. I mean, Darby's been in it a few times. That guy is just fearless. It's like nauseating in a way, the stuff that he goes
I know
through.
You feel bad for him.
I do feel bad for him, and I mean, how could you not? Because I love this segment. I mean, we're seeing similar stuff week in and week out, and Sting coming out and then getting interrupted by Team Taz, things like that. So it's constantly the same, but they're keeping it fresh. And so you had Team Taz run through the merch table. Now you have Team Taz really terrorizing Darby directly. And so they kept to their promise. You got to give them props for that. So this is just giving us a slower build to the Revolution street fight. But I enjoyed it. It was powerful, and it was at the same time, it's just like, oh gosh, man, what is this guy going to do next?
Yeah, just like the stakes are getting higher and higher when it comes to the violence. And I think that is exactly the story they need to tell when you're building to a street fight.
Right.
This feud has a lot on the line for both parties, man. You and I have talked about this a lot. Sting coming back and being the icon that he is. Can he lose in this match? It's going to be a tough one, but I'm telling you, man, Team Taz, like with the way that they've been built to this point,
right,
it's hard to say that they can afford a loss like this, man. Like this is going to be, they look so strong right now that maybe that's the point. Maybe that they're trying to establish them as legitimate wrecking crew so that if and when they do lose to Darby and Sting at the pay-per-view, they still have that strength. They still have that, that overall rub. This is like, they're doing a nice job too, like you said, of diversifying segments. Yes, Sting talking and things like that. We've seen that, the entrance and the snow, and there's a lot that's fun, but this is another level where you get to see a backstage beat down, drag through the parking lot. Just I like them mixing things up a little bit.
For sure. And I agree. And it's keeping it fresh. And who knows what we're going to see next week when we're there live at Dynamite. Light the fuse. I can't wait for that, man. We are
Yeah,
just clamoring at
boy.
the bit for that. When he's going to be appearance and respond to Taz. I hope we get a little mini brawl or something like that. But speaking of brawls, I mean, we had round 1 of the women's tournament, legit Layla Hirsch, which I think she's really starting to establish herself in the women's division. But she definitely is no match to Thunder Rosa. And we think Thunder Rosa, we think very high upon her. And not only did she show in the match itself, but her promo work to start things off are great. And she's like, I'm coming for 3 things: to win the tournament, to get my NWA championship back, and for Britt Baker. And it was great. And if you tie all those in, I mean, she can knock down Serena Deeb in the tournament, and then she can come for Britt Baker in the semifinals, and that would just be like boom, boom, boom. And the bold booking that we thought of when we were on Friday Night Flights and Fights was that Thunder is not officially signed to AEW. She's in the rankings. She's probably going to move up to 4 or 3 after tonight's win. But if the cherry on top would be ultimately that she could sign a contract with AEW after winning the tournament if Britt doesn't win.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folks that are putting the kibosh on that because of her contract status with NWA, and Thunder talked to us personally about that in her interview with us. But I think that Tony Khan has proven that you never say never with that man, and he's capable of making anything happen. So
because he is the forbidden door.
He is the forbidden door, and he swings both ways, and he can make it happen however he wants. Whether it's coming into the AEW or letting his talent go out of the company, he's shown a willingness to negotiate and work with any company. And I think that Tony recognizes that he can, with his approach to the business, he can make anything happen. And that's what it's all about. He can make anything happen. And he's willing and honestly excited about opportunities like this. So I wouldn't never say never when it comes to Thunder Rosa joining AEW's official ranks. I think that this was a great start to the tournament. Honestly, on the American side, when you look at the way that the rest of the American side, which is going to be focused on, that's going to be showcased on Dynamite. We've been told that the Japanese, the Yoshi side of this tournament is going to have its showcase on YouTube. But so when we focus on what's going to be showcased on Dynamite, you look at the way those matchups are. This one to me was, not to say that any of them are obvious, but this one to me was the most slam dunk. I felt like Thunder Rosa was there's no doubt in my mind that Thunder Rosa is one of the top favorites, the heavy favorites to win this tournament, especially to emerge from the US side of the tournament. So I felt like this was a great way to start it. Now, next week's show, we're going to be there. This is an example of honestly, I don't know who's going to win that. Serena Deeb versus Riho. I mean, that to me is an incredibly tough match to book. So this one was a great way to start the tournament. You give the fans what they want. You get to see the ladies in action. Honestly, legit Layla, she's come a long way from when she started. And this is an example to, again, Thunder Rosa, her ability to push the pace, to work in that MMA, that she got that fighter's mentality, right? Where she and I thought that paired very well with legit Layla in tonight's show. Layla, one of the things going into this match, I loved the matchup of styles where Layla is sort of that, she wants to slow down the pace. Like I've talked to relate it to I'll let you get, but to relate it to tag team wrestling, for me, it's like FTR versus the Young Bucks, that type of mentality where that Thunder is going to want to push the pace, want to go fast, balls to the wall, constant action, constant offense, like the Bucks. And Layla's got a little bit more of that grind them out, slow you down, drive you into the mat, be more than happy to grind you down. I love the way that those styles meshed tonight. I thought that both of these women looked great.
I completely agree, man. And this honestly wasn't what I was thinking for the first round. We kind of did some bold predictions on Friday Night Flights and Fights. I thought we'd see more Tay Conti versus Thunder, which would be a great match down the line because of their jiu-jitsu MMA type of background.
Mm.
So that would be a good pairing.
Mm.
But, Layla, I like her strength and her ground and pound and all that. But lately we're seeing her go to the top and do some really, courageous stuff.
Mhm.
She's doing the moonsault, and she did it against, Penelope. And now she's
Mhm.
doing it against Thunder, which we typically did not get to see early on in some of her early matches. But still no match for Thunder. I mean, pound for pound, Thunder is the strongest women's wrestler in AEW. The way she can just pick up Britt and manhandle Britt, pick up Layla, manhandle her. And Layla's short, but she's strong and stocky.
she's strong, right? Her lower body in particular.
Yeah. And so both are great wrestlers. Both really showcased each other well. But Thunder, no match for Thunder. She's clearly the star. She's got the fire. She's so fun to watch. And I think she's going to go far in this tournament, and she could easily take the tournament, and we would hope so. And, what we see here with her hand raised is not going to be an uncommon thing moving forward this year.
No, not at all. Honestly, I was just thinking about, like, if you're talking to a casual wrestling fan, Thunder Rosa is one of the top names that I would recommend you introduce fans to. She's so fun.
The promo was great.
Yeah, I really don't see any flaws in Thunder Rosa's overall presentation. She's phenomenal on social media. She's incredibly giving of her time to her peers. She wants to see good things happen for other folks. Thunder pushes herself constantly in the gym. You can see the way she grinds, dude. She's not only an active wrestler, but she's training for MMA. She's a head coach from Mission Pro. I mean, the things that this woman does, the way she pushes herself, such a natural baby face, so easy to root for.
Definitely.
And I think she's going to be one of the fan favorites in this tournament. And to see the potential outcomes down the road for her, I'm really geeked about. Obviously, my eyes are set for the potential semifinal rematch between Britt and Thunder, which is, if the card plays out the way the tournament plays out that way, could certainly lead to some very, very, that could be an incredible, with the stakes even higher than they were at Beach Break. I would be really excited for that.
I mean, these aren't the matchups, but these are all the women in the division. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch for sure.
Yeah. Next week's matchup, Riho versus Serena Deeb. I want to talk to you about that later tonight. But when I go back to, when I think about, some of the guys who have, Jungle Boy, let's just jump in. I mean, I just talked about how Layla Hirsch reminds me a little bit of that FTR style. And, Dax left a big impression. And this, again, I love it. I mean, I love seeing any of these people succeed. I love this company. I love seeing where it's going and how much it's grown. But we all have our sentimental favorites, and FTR is absolutely one of my absolute favorites in this company. I love that crew. Dax and Jungle Boy put on a clinic, and it was really great to see Jungle Boy get an opportunity to reflect on that match, dude, because this promo is a rare thing we get to see out of Jungle Boy. I mean, this is a serious side of Jungle Jack that talking about getting smacked so hard that he had to recompose himself on the mat. I mean, that was a line, dude. And you could tell, he's this kid's ready for a fight.
Yeah, they turned the volume down a little bit on the and then turned the volume up on the seriousness.
Yep.
It was a nice play on that. Obviously, we love the entrance and the shenanigans with Jurassic Express. One of my favorite teams to watch personally. But he raised up, or he gave props where props are due with Dax, and saying I beat you, but I tapped you out in front of the world. And he kind of laid down the law to stick up for not only himself but his team.
Yep.
And how he's going to make you his bitch. And that was a powerful promo when you kind of get low blow like that. So we're definitely going to have to see something next week in terms of the Jurassic Express maybe confronting FTR, or FTR when they do take a victory, they get on the mic and call out Jurassic Express to lead up to maybe a match at Revolution or the following week. And so I think that's what we're going to see. And I think this feud that is going to continue, it's I'm all for it. And, you know, you're a huge FTR fan. You've turned me into an FTR fan. I don't know where you really stand with Jurassic Express, but I'm a huge Jurassic Express fan. So,
oh, dude, I don't think that. I mean, honestly, I don't know how you can't like Jurassic Express, right? They have the catchy theme song. They have a cool gimmick, and they have a great blend. I mean, if you're a guy who likes the big, if you're somebody who likes the big guys, Luchasaurus can bring that and then some. He's got like the build of like a big, like a Kane, you know, big man, traditional big man,
right?
But he can do moves, the kicks that he can do, the athleticism that he can show. I know you're a huge Luchasaurus fan, and I understand why. I mean, we talk at length about how much we love Lance Archer on this show, and Lance Archer is that kind of rare big man that has the size, strength, and power, and then the athleticism to match it. Luchasaurus is the same way, man. That dude's moveset is incredible. And then you look at Jungle Jack, man, and you see this is a young kid who has charisma for days, has grown tremendously from an in-ring standpoint, and you could tell he's so much more comfortable than he was when he first broke onto the scene on AEW. Absolutely. He's one of the guys who's definitely gotten more comfortable in his own skin. He feels more comfortable week in, week out. And he can play that natural baby face in peril who can do the hot tag, the lucha. But now he's starting to develop that credibility on his own. And for sure. The more that happens, the more credible that this team is going to be, because it's going to, the narrative is going to shift where it's not just about Luchasaurus cleaning house. Right. Jack's Jungle Boy is going to be able to hold his own. As he has already. Right, exactly. And that is going to make them all the more dangerous. I think that what FTR is doing is a great thing as far as, man, we all know FTR is well established. These guys, whether they're in the tag, you know, the tag team title chase or not right now, they're legitimately one of the best in the world. So, you know, sometimes it's about the straps can make the championship can make the performer, or the performer can make the championship. Dude, FTR does not necessarily need a championship belt to be recognized as one of the best tag teams in the world. Now, it's great to see them in that role as a fan of theirs, but this feud is a pay-per-view worthy feud, and I'd love to see the matchup in March at Revolution because of that very reason. Is because I'm seeing a lot of growth out of Jack Perry, Jungle Boy, and I'm dying to see him and Luchasaurus get in the ring with a team as polished and as intelligent as FTR. I think that they could, if given some time, I think what we saw with that singles match between Dax and Jungle Boy, you saw the planning, you saw the thoughtfulness, you saw obviously that there was a lot of purpose in that match, and the after effects, we're left talking about what a star Jungle Boy is. For sure. This matchup with FTR and a tag team is going to, I think, catapult Jurassic Express to another level. I think that I don't blame you for being on board with them, man. I think that they got bright things ahead of them. I really do. I've been on board with them for a while, and it'll be great to really have a couple more really strong babyface teams. You know, as we shift into the main event, man, this was, I mean, it honestly, at times I was speechless. You know, this was outstanding main event. It's everything you wanted and then some. It was all over the place. You know, you got you went all the way over all the arena. But you know, I'm glad to see Kenny Omega's entrance back, which is some of the best, and even the announcers say some of the most, you know, arrogant entrances or whatever. You know, he has 30, I wrote down some comments, 38 victories, the most anyone on the roster. You know, his biggest WTF moment was at a Wild Wing Cafe in North Carolina. So, you know, his entrances are, to me, some of the best to date in AEW, just because of the hyping of himself. And then, I mean, Justin Roberts, we talk about him a lot. Just the way he can put chills on your arms, make the hair on your neck stand up because of what he can do. You know, his Kenny Omega, his John Moxley are both outstanding.
And, when John Moxley came out, it was, we're seeing the belt, the belt on his shoulder,
love that.
It's like gold versus gold. And, I don't know, man, this match delivered so much for me.
Well, yeah, let me ask you a question though, before we go into it further, and I'll get the elite or delete out of you, but this was really your first time seeing Kenta in action, right? I mean, I know that for me, I've seen him in New Japan, and I've definitely saw him in NXT. What were your takeaways? Obviously, there's so much action and there's so much craziness going on. So I understand that maybe, as a Lance Archer and Kenny Omega fan, you might have had your attention more dialed into the violence that they had going on. Yep. But just your quick takeaways on what you saw out of Kenta.
So the turning point to me, which I'm sure was for most people, was when he did the double stomp off the stage onto Moxley on the table, the ring announcer's table. That was an unexpected and brutal move. But yes, to start things off, when you have the star power of Kenny and Archer and Mox in the ring, Kenta, to me, kind of faded away in the back. And especially with Archer doing that slow turn and that look. I tweeted it out for us. I said, when Kenta hit him with the briefcase, if someone turned around that slow with that look, I'd be running as fast as I could, as far away as I could, because you made a big
especially the size of Lance Archer, no doubt.
For sure. So, but he did impress me. I need to see more of him. I want to see him more in a singles action match that is in between the ropes. That being said, I'm not talking about Kenta this match at all. I'm talking about Lance Archer.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
I think into that more deep.
I don't think that anybody should be, because the Murder Hawks trajectory. I mean, dude, this guy has been on fire, and we don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think that there are certain performers that you can really tell are when everything's clicking. Yep. You can tell, and you can see it with Lance right now. Everything's clicking with him, man. His character work is on point. Yep. There's a confidence to his game right now. You can tell that he sees it's working. It's connecting with the fans. I don't blame you for walking away and again trying to. I know that there's a lot of buzz around the New Japan crossover with Kenta and Mox and that feud. But I don't blame you as an AEW fan for saying all right, that's awesome. I'm excited for it. But let's not just forget about what we already have here. And I think that, sometimes we can be prisoners of the moment and just latch on to the newest hot thing and forget about what we already have. And what we already have is, a 6'9", bad dude who can, truly manhandle people who can do. I mean, his offense, his vest tonight. I love that, the studded, the studded vest that he had. His look is on point. No, dude, I'm with you. I understand your love for Lance. One of the things I will say, and I hope that you do get to see Kenta more in a more traditional role.
I'll watch the Moxley Kenta match. I can't wait for that.
As you should. I think that you're going to see. I know that you're somebody who always is when you talk about making an offense look real, making that you enjoy a stiff chop, you enjoy a knee strike that makes you wince. I don't need to see, and it was nice. I mean, there was a lot of violence. I don't need to see potatoes and baking sheets and tables and all this stuff, right?
Or the Dippin' Dots.
You don't need that. It's nice once in a while, but at its core, we love wrestling. And Kenta's strikes, he brings that strong style. I think you'll appreciate his knee strikes, his kicks. Kenta's kicks are world renowned. He's just that kind of dude. And I think he delivers a go to sleep that, and I'll say it. I mean, I love CM Punk, but I think his go to sleep makes CM Punk's look weak. Kenta drives the knee into your face. You'll catch some of those go to sleeps from Kenta that make you feel like he might have broke someone's jaw, literally. Yeah. So I think that Kenta will bring a strong showing against Mox in a more traditional role. And we know Mox, man, that dude from day one in AEW, since his breakthrough performance, ever since his breakthrough against Kenny when he debuted, Mox has had countless memorable performances. So I have no doubt that he and Kenta will put on a clinic. But the way this is starting to break up SPD, you got Kenta and Mox in one corner, and you got the Murder Hawk and Kenny in the other.
We talked about it on Friday Night Fights.
Are we building towards seeing the Murder Hawk versus Kenny for the title?
I hope so. And booking by Bonds, our third member, Dynamite Download, who does our column, we kind of worked through this, hot take together on last week's Friday Night Flights and Fights, how we see the Murder Hawk monster kind of feuding with Kenny. And ultimately, we don't want to see the Murder Hawk lose another title match necessarily cleanly. And then maybe we can have Eddie Kingston cost him that match and then reignite that feud. So it doesn't necessarily drop him down or make him look weak at all. I think that is brilliant booking by Bonds and us. I think that would be an outstanding short-term feud right now, or long-term. I don't know how long you can drag it out with Kenny and Archer, and then reignite the Eddie, because that all that is just pure gold.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
we talked about it. Yeah. I mean, Eddie is not going to go away quietly. Yes, he lost the last match to Lance, but they're tied 1-1, and I think that Murder Hawk has moved on, but I love the idea. And I think that, Lance is clearly emerging as a legitimate contender for the world title. And so I think that, this was a showcase tonight. As Moxley said, this one was for fun. I think there was a lot of fun. There was a lot that happened in tonight's match. SPD, wasn't an elite out of you? Is this going to be another clean sweep episode of Dynamite for you? Pure positive, pure elite.
I don't want to say I'm an easy pleaser, but I'm giving it an elite because how could you not with the star power in this? And some of my favorite wrestlers with Kenny Omega, Lance Archer, and Jon Moxley in the ring. But we have both grown to really try to find a silver lining and try to find the positives. That's what we're growing as a brand, Dynamite Download, to find the positive of a match. Yeah. You could easily say, oh, this match sucked. Oh, whatever, they won. This person didn't do this. It was boring. But then you can pull back the curtain and dive a little deeper and be like, wow, you saw the growth of Lee Johnson. You saw the growth of a Joey Janela. You saw the growth of Darby Allin, legit Layla Hirsch. Like, you saw the growth of these. Okay, yes, these are, you could say, oh, they're dark talent, they're undercard talent. But everyone starts somewhere, and you don't have veterans putting you on a televised show where millions see you ultimately for a reason, unless they see something in you. And the vision of AEW is one that I believe in and support. This match, was all over the place. There were some amazing moments that told so many stories. The whole Peter Avalon and ruining his bed, that part was hilarious. Then going through the kitchen and being able to be a taped show. I liked how they were like, oh, some of the highlights of the match, they can, kind of go back to that. That's the difference between live and taped, to be able to successfully do a match like this. But this match definitely was an elite, and this match was just another showcase of how badass Lance Archer is. That guy was just going on a wrecking crew. The announcers were putting him over. Even Don Callis was just saying how strong he was and how it took 4 men to take down Archer. Ultimately, you got Kenny and the Good Brothers and Kenta. He was not going down easy. He's not getting a roll-up pin. He's not getting a go to sleep to end it. It took all hands on deck to put down Archer to seal the victory. And he looked so strong, and he was just doing some amazing stuff. Kenny, all guys shined in some part of this match. I really loved that the fireman's carry onto the rope moonsault with the trash can that Kenny was doing. It was really, really entertaining stuff, and I hope this is just the appetizer of what's to come with some of these people.
Yeah, I love hearing you go on. I really do, man. I love hearing you talk about the Murder Hawk, because it's obvious that, like, before he came onto the scene at AEW, you didn't even know who Lance Archer really was. I mean, that's
true,
okay,
and I'll admit
right?
that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's the beautiful thing, is that I think that you've become, and throughout this time in AEW, you become such a huge fan of his. And I think that that's a testimony to the work that he's put in, the booking that the company has done. Lance has made a huge fan out of SPD. And I think that
Definitely.
like, you're not alone. I don't think that you're alone in that. I think that, Lance's body of work is when you reflect back on it, it's going to be very impressive. But I think that even he would admit this is something unique for him in the North American side of, like, he's back home, and the work that he put in New Japan is paying off. It's a beautiful thing to see. This is another example of the wrestler's journey, man. Like, 15 years ago, he was not the same man that he is now. And I think that he would even say, like, he wouldn't be ready for this back then, but he is now. And it's obvious that he's ready. It's obvious that he's chomping at the bit. It's obvious that he's putting in all the work, all the love, like, he's sacrificed so much to get to this point, and he's not letting it slip through his fingers, bro. I mean, like, Lance Archer looks like a man who sees everything that he wants right within his grasp, and he's fighting like that. He's fighting like somebody who will not go down without a fight, right? I love that. It's pretty incredible that out of, with the star power that was in this match, that we're talking about Lance in this way. And I think that that's a testimony to what they've done with him. And we were worried about Lance.
Yeah.
And what was going to happen after he lost to Mox in the way that he did. And so I think that, again, this is a beautiful example of what AEW's done and what he's done. I mean, this dude looks like an absolute wrecking ball. That said, Kenny's got to get some due in this match too, man. Kenny's putting on, not just in this match, but Kenny is truly putting on some incredible work as champion. I think that you've been beating the drum for him to have a nice long title reign.
Yeah, he's my favorite. He's top of my list, man.
If you continue to do stuff like this, and you continue to, I think we're still trying to figure out, like, how we feel about the Good Brothers.
Right.
But if their role in this whole scenario is to further drive Kenny's descent into scumbag heel territory, when we as fans know he's so damn good that he doesn't need to cheat, he doesn't need to have people interfering for him to win, he doesn't need that.
For sure.
It makes it even that much more frustrating, because you were like, man, you're so good, you don't need to do this, Yep. So it's compelling storytelling in that regard. I mean, it really is. I mean, it makes you detest the Good Brothers that much more. This match, without a doubt, is an elite. And actually, this is an example, bro. We gave this show an elite across the board, which, man, going into this week, I was not expecting that. But
I agree.
Wow, I was so impressed by the show overall, and I think that it's a testimony to us. Like, honestly, man, like, we're vibing with the values of what Dynamite Download is all about. Like, we're walking the walk, dude. Like, I don't want to just be a. I hope that the fans of our show see it's authentic. Like, for me, I'll be honest with you, dude. Like, I was prepared to have some uncharacteristically negative opinions on this week's episode for Dynamite Download. We try to pride ourselves on being positive, and I was proven, like, I'm not going to come on here and just, like, talk trash for no, like, dude, the Joey Janela versus Darby match was really good. Really good. And I was impressed by what Joey Janela did. I felt like, there were a lot of moments like that throughout the show. And that leads me to who the top performer is of the night, because, there are every single match you could walk away and say, wow, that guy stole this match. That guy absolutely impressed me. I'm going to leave it to you because you know mine. I want to be surprised. Who's your top performer?
Well, like I said earlier, Sammy was definitely up there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it should come no surprise based on what I've been saying.
Murder Hawk.
This is a three-peat. This is the first time ever we had back-to-back, and then now this is the first time ever we had back-to-back-to-back for the Murder Hawk. And I really am crossing my fingers that it's going to be 4 in a row because we're going to be there live next week. So as of right now, we're not having any Murder Hawk on the card yet.
Please, Lance, please, we're begging you.
We need to see some Lance.
We need to see Lance on the show next week.
So, I don't even need to really explain this.
No, you don't.
This guy was an absolute terror. He did his signature top rope walk with the moonsault backflip, and just the power he was showing, just the destruction he was showing, and just the resilience, and just not being phased by some of the stuff. And it was just absolutely incredible. It's always fun to watch him in the ring, and he's definitely my top performer for the 3rd week in a row.
I'm going to start readjusting my takes, and you're just going to start seeing like 5-6 weeks in a row of like Pac or FTR. I'm going to want to run just to be a fanboy. But honestly, bro, I don't blame you. He looked like a monster in this match. He looked like a monster. I picked Lee Johnson tonight because what's that?
He deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, it's important to recognize when somebody has a breakthrough moment like this. And, for this young man to have a win on Dynamite with Cody, who, let's be honest, is a mentor of his, who's somebody who had believed in him. And Cody, we all know that dude sets the bar. That guy, when it comes to work ethic, when it comes to expectations of himself and his peers, he holds everybody to the same standard he holds himself to, and that's an incredibly high standard. Yeah. So for somebody like Lee to not only earn this opportunity to partner with Cody, but then to win this match after going through heartbreak after heartbreak, setback after setback, I felt like this is a feel good moment of the show. This is a rare. Honestly, it was the first win for Lee on AEW. So
hopefully not the last, because he looked very strong.
Yeah, I think that he's come a long way, and he had a big breakthrough, and I'm excited for him. I think that this is a really incredible step in the right direction for his career, and I can't wait to see how the Nightmare family continues to grow, bro. There's a lot of talent in the Nightmare family, and Lee set the tone, man. He got a big win. And I think that the whole crew is going to be partying with him and celebrating with him throughout the upcoming week.
I agree, man. The Nightmare family is in good hands. The teachers and the Nightmare factory is blossoming a lot of great talent ahead of them. And, we just got it, sent in over to us. Bonds sent us his biggest moment. I'm going to share that for us and see where it is. And then we'll slowly start to wrap things up. So here it is. Bonds' biggest moment of the night. All right, so that was Bond's biggest moment. We're trying a new thing, so I don't know if you could hear the audio or not, but he talked about the Sammy Guevara moment, and it was definitely one that we're going to be talking about for this coming week and what leads to that, and when we'll see him next. But the Sammy Guevara moment was his biggest moment of the night. And as we're starting to wrap things up, we're going to talk about next week. It's very special, not only because we will be there, but we're going to be seeing some great matches. A lot of people are going to be in the ring, starting with the first announcement of the night, which the Young Bucks to me are the top of their game right now, for sure, by far the top of their game. And they are getting an opportunity. The Santana and Ortiz, they offered up a challenge for the Tag Team Championship. So we have a title match set for Dynamite next week. And so that's going to be a very exciting stuff.
And man, we just got done with that Alex Reynolds interview, and man, did he just heap praise on the Young Bucks and just the example they set and their offense that they have. How fluid and fast-paced those guys are with a veteran team like Santana Ortiz, man. I cannot wait for that match. Serena Deeb versus Riho, man. This was the first match that was announced for the women's tournament, and it's one that you and I have wrestled with since then. I mean, it's been weeks now that we've found this out, and we still don't know who's going to go over in that match. A lot of times in wrestling, you can tell, hey, this team's going to win or this person's going to win. This is a match that I'm truly stumped. I do not know who's going to win this match. Both are incredible pros. I love the in-ring style of Serena Deeb, and it's been a long time since we've seen the first AEW Women's Champ with Riho. Really, really looking forward to that matchup, man. I think that they're going to push the pace, and there's going to be a lot of people geeking out over that matchup.
Including me, because, we've seen a lot of Serena Deeb lately, but honestly, early AEW days, I wasn't a big fan of the women's division personally. I'll be first to admit, but I've come around. And while Rio was champ, I didn't pay too much attention to it. So guilty as charged, changed things around, new outlook on things. So I'm excited to see her live for the first time and see Serena live for the first time. So I'm excited for it. We're also going to see the continuation, as we talked about, of Sting is going to call out Team Taz. I hope we get a little bit of violence in there, or maybe some face-to-face action finally. So that'll be another great segment that we will be able to see the icon Sting live, and the snow is going to come down. It's definitely magical.
I can't wait for that. The next match is going to be interesting. You got Hangman Page, Matt Hardy, and Private Party, fresh off of honestly of a segment tonight that left a lot of people wondering what's going to happen next. Hangman Page and Matt Hardy, what role are they going to have? And obviously Private Party is worried about being second fiddle to Matt.
That's
Where
true.
what kind of chemistry they're going to have? And your boy Crayfish is going to be screaming his lungs out for TH2. Those guys don't get nearly enough love. I absolutely do it, brother. I absolutely love me some Jack Evans. I think that dude makes the unbelievable routine. And I think that when it comes to entrances in AEW, that TH2 has one of my absolute favorites, dude. I love the chill factor that Angelico brings. Although the Chaos Project has not been booked very strong, I'm intrigued to see where this goes. And I really do hope that TH2 at least gets an opportunity to show what they're capable of, because those guys are absolutely badass in the ring, man. They make things look so easy that are not easy to do, man. I'm really excited about seeing TH2 live.
Preach to that. I mean, the talent level in that ring is going to be definitely one to be excited about. I mean, Private Party and TH2, just those two teams alone put on show-stealing matches. So that would be a fun sidebar match down the line if we could see that again.
Yeah.
And then, the last match that was announced, FTR, which you are extremely excited for, versus Mike and Matt Sydal. So we're going to see Mike Sydal, the brother, make his AEW debut. And I am huge on Matt Sydal. I love his ring style. So this is going to be totally different. They're the fists and the other guys are the flips. So
yes, good call.
It's gonna be a clash of styles for sure. So we are very excited for that. And if you're watching this interview before Thursday, we have our next, or watching the show before Thursday, we have our next interview debuting Thursday, February 11th with Alex Reynolds, the recruitment specialist of the Dark Order. This is one you do not want to miss because we dove into some great stories with BTE, Alex's career. This blew our minds. We really we're very high on Alex. We support him, but after talking to them, it's a whole nother level, man. This guy is so down to earth, so cool. We talked to him for almost an hour, and we could have talked to him for another hour, but we didn't want to take too much of his time. So this is one you definitely do not want to miss when we debut it tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to you about this since, man. I got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life right now, but like getting a chance to just talk to somebody who has such a mind and respect for the business and who has come such a long way in his own life, to see what a deep and reflective person he is, and how selfless he truly is, man. Like this is an interview that's going to stick with me for a while, man. I really, really came away incredibly impressed by him, and I'm rooting for such great things for the Dark Order. I mean, I can't believe that I've become such an advocate. You talk about your movement with the Acclaimed and the women's division. I can't believe I've become such an advocate for the Dark Order. I mean, I love this crew. There's such a feel-good team, and I hope that you guys give that interview a listen tomorrow when it debuts, because John Silver gets a lot of the love in the Dark Order, and rightfully so. The man is incredibly entertaining, but it takes a certain type of person to be able to take the back seat and be happy for this, like, and understand where he fits into everything, so that everybody can be successful. I came away so impressed by Alex Reynolds, and I think that all of you fans will too. Really, really excited for that debut. It was an incredible interview.
It was definitely incredible. You do not want to miss it. And so thank you everyone for tuning in and watching our show. We will have clips all throughout this show, break it down to a little bit that are easier to digest on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on our Twitter and our Instagram, and you can listen to this on Spotify as well. And so we are all over the place, and we will be there live next week in person at Dynamite. We're going to stay tuned. We're going to do some special stuff. We're going to do some live streaming when we're there at the Daily's place. We're going to do a behind the scenes of what it's like to be at the Daily's place, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we can't wait for it. So
thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.